and welcome to this tutorial. We're going to learn more about the elements that go into making waves. So to tell us more, let's speak to Dr. Rob Brander.
Well, ocean waves are formed by wind. When the wind blows, very rarely is the ocean surface completely flat. If there's any little bump, the wind literally grabs onto it, and there's this transfer of energy from the wind into the water. Now, that makes the bumps get bigger, so as the wind keeps blowing, that transfer gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and the waves start moving. So the wave initially is this movement of energy going across the water. Now, to get big waves, you need three things. You need the wind to be blowing fast, so the stronger the wind, the bigger your wave. The second thing is how long the wind blows for. The longer the wind blows for, the bigger your waves will be. And the third thing is the distance over the water, which we call fetch, that the wind can blow. So in a lake, a little lake, you're not going to get big waves because there's not enough fetch. But in the ocean, there's thousands of kilometers for the wind to blow over, and you're going to get big waves. So once that wind imparts all that energy and you've got a big fetch and the wind blows for a long time, but when you go to the beach on a really windy day, or even if you go to a lake or a bay, you'll see all the choppy waves and all the whitecaps. And we call those waves wind waves because you can actually see the waves being formed right in front of you. So wind waves have really short periods, which is the time between crests, maybe a couple of seconds apart, and they're messy and whitecaps. But as the water body gets bigger and bigger and bigger and the waves travel, the waves sort of separate out and they become this nice clean swell. Waves start off as being wind waves, but the further they travel, they sort themselves out into long crested swell waves. And that's what's known as a groundswell. A groundswell is just a swell that has traveled from a particularly long distance. So you might have waves travel from one side of the Pacific Ocean to the other that can suddenly hit your beach, and all of a sudden these big waves come out of nowhere, and that's the groundswell. Well, some places are particularly exposed to swell conditions all the time, or swell waves all the time. But having said that, they also tend to have the perfect geometry to make the waves break. So they've got the right bathymetric conditions and just the right shape of a reef, for example. So you combine that with these perfect swell waves coming in, and you're going to get big waves. But it's all about location. It's usually places that have a very long fetch, and they're facing into an area where there's a lot of wind, creating large swell waves, maybe with wave periods of 15 seconds or more. And that's what's going to give you your consistent big waves.
Okay, so let's review the things that go into making waves. Waves are created by wind. Wind transfers energy to the water, which makes the waves get bigger. Three factors increase the size of the wave. The wind's intensity. Wind intensity is how hard the wind is blowing. Its duration. Duration is over what amount of time the wind blows. And the distance. Distance, also referred to as fetch. And this is the distance that the wind is blowing onto the waves. A crest is the peak or top of a wave, and the period is the time between the crests. Wind waves appear choppy and messy with only a few seconds between crests. Groundswell is swell that has travelled from a long distance, which have more time between crests. So if the wind blows on the ocean surface for long enough, hard enough, and over a big enough area, supersized swell can be created. The way it breaks at the beach is due to a whole other set of conditions that you can learn about in the Breaking Waves tutorial. So once again, I hope you have picked up some important information that will keep you safe down at the beach. See you in the next tutorial.